So my current work and art practice is primarily a painting practice. However, I do work across a range of media: photo, sculpture, installation, video sometimes. The current work I'm doing at the moment is based on a radical Italian architect. His name's Paolo Soleri, and he started this community in Arizona called Arcasconti. That body of work has come out of this long line of research I've been doing into sort of countercultural communities over the last few years. And this is the one that I'm particularly intrigued by at the moment. So I've been making a lot of paintings, primarily paintings at the moment, in response to images that I've found of his community. One thing about that work is I haven't been to the place that he's designed, the communities, at all, and it's really important to me at this point for the work that I'm doing that I don't have direct access to those places. They're more of a speculative exercise from a distance. So I guess how I've begun the last few bodies of work has directly fed off the previous series, I guess. But one of the things that I often do is I do lots of research before I start making. Unlike other people often, I guess, respond to materials in a more intuitive way, I'm really quite obsessed with doing lots of research before I even get into the studio. And I think that I actually really almost enjoy that detached, not tactile, but the research process even sometimes more than the making. Or once I start making, it's like I have to let that go and the research is done. But that's quite a romantic stage. I like that really super early stage, the research stage. So once I find something that interests me, I then search for information, but also a lot of the search is just image searching. So I build up like a database. And the other thing about the way I start a project is often there are two things that I'm interested in which are quite disparate, it seems, at first. And it's always got to do with combining them and forging links between them. One of the things that I often do is combine these ideas about experimental or other ways of living with different ways of seeing. So usually it's optical devices. So a lot of the early research for me has to do with identifying what I'm interested in, which is often these optical devices like stereoscopes or kaleidoscopes, and then these other alternative kind of experimental ways of living, and combining them together and trying to work out why I even want to combine them. What is it that links them? So I guess that's the early stage of building up a body of work, is identifying often these two interests and figuring out how they link together, why I want to put them together in the first place. I think experimentation exists on all levels, but particularly once I'm in the studio, there's lots of little tricks, I guess, or things, methods that I use that allow, because I work from photos a lot now at the moment, I'll often do things like I won't use a colour image, I'll make it black and white, and I'll only work from black and white, so that there are things about building up an image or a painting that aren't fully resolved before, at the early stages. So I guess I need to experiment and play around with colour intuitively, or in a way that isn't defined by this source, like a coloured image. I guess that's a form of experimentation. Past work I've done, I've experimented with whether often I'll respond through multiple media, I guess. So I'll think I'm going to make a body of paintings, but it'll end up being a sculpture. I think the research stage for me is the opposite of experimental. It's often, I don't know if it's a result of doing a PhD and having to spend all of that time being very just focusing on researching while you're making. But yeah, there's research that's done, and then once the research is done and I've got the materials, the resources I want to work with, I go into the studio, and that measure of control's kind of not there now, and I guess that's where the play happens. I teach as well, and I think I feel really fortunate. That's fantastic. It's the art school environment's really nurturing. It's a fantastic community. So having been a student, left art school, now to come back as a teacher, it's really lovely to still be in that community, and rather than training up as an artist to help people who are wanting to do that themselves. So I think to survive as an artist, it's really healthy and good to remain part of community. Community is really important and nurturing. But also I come from my parents, I didn't have any parental pressure to find a career that was something that was going to provide me with a really financially secure situation over feeling happy and fulfilled. So my parents always encouraged me to do what I love, so that's what I've done. So my studio at the moment is at home, and it's like a sunroom. It's a biggish space. I work from home because I have a child, so it's convenient to do so. My partner's also an artist, and he works at home as well. For me, that works. I think if he wasn't also making work at home, it wouldn't work. I think you need that. For me, I need that sense of community, someone to bounce ideas off. In the past, I've been in communal sort of studios outside of the domestic space, and that works really well as well. Having studio buddies to hang out with and talk to about ideas and stuff is good, but I've been in situations many times where I haven't had a dedicated space to work, and I've just worked on the kitchen table and on the lounge room floor. But yeah, you can always find a space, I guess, to work.